time you run me down, girl, it drives me just one more step closer to taking a walk to another who loved me, 'cause all you do is hurt me, and I know she'll love me. She's done it before.
That is Taking a Walk, Joe Rucker. I'm going to make you find the rest of the song. Texas native, actually born in Texas, took off a little bit and raised over in the Florida area. Are you in Nashville now, or are you in Florida now?
I'm in Nashville.
So tell us, how long have you been performing and what got you inspired to become a songwriter?
Well, I guess I've actually been performing probably since I was about 5 years old. You know, my family had a little group that we would travel around Florida and do barbecues and churches, things like that. And so I guess I've been on stage since I was 4 or 5, you know. And but I always had the bug for music. And when I was a teenager, I started singing at a place right outside of Ocala. Well, it's actually called the Orange Blossom Opry now, but back in the day it was called the Wearsdale Opry. It's in Wearsdale, Florida, which is right outside of Ocala. And I would sing there on Friday and Saturday nights and open up for a lot of the Nashville people that would come in and do shows there. So a lot of the people from the Grand Ole Opry, and I remember one time I got to open for Eddie Rabbit, and there were several folks that I worked with there, a lot of the old timers like Billy Walker and Jack Green and such. So I kind of cut my teeth there, and then decided after I graduated high school and got married a couple of years later, I moved to Nashville, you know, and been here ever since, you know, and I've had a lot of ups and downs and made some good music and played a lot of clubs, and some were good and some were bad, but here we are, you know. I'm still having fun after all these years. I've been here since 1998, so I've been here a long time. But and really, it's I've kind of come full circle because I've got signed to Heart of Texas Records last year, and so my label, my music home, even though I live in Nashville, is really based out of Texas now, out of Brady, Texas. There, Heart of Texas, and so I just got back from my second trip this year so far. We did a show in Houston back in February, and then I did the Heart of Texas Country Music Festival, you know, 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. Just got back from that, so we had us a really good time. So I'm having a lot of fun. This is just the time in my life where I'm making the music I want to make. I'm writing the songs I want to write, and, just having fun at it.
That's what it's about. It's about the journey, not the destination. It's about the journey. And so, speaking of journeys, I remember you saying the Ocala, Florida area. I had a friend that when I first moved to that area, I knew that alligators obviously were an issue, and wild boars, you know, just like Texas, wild pigs are an issue in Florida. What I did not know about Florida, and I thought my friend was absolutely insane, was that in the Ocala area, they actually have bears too.
Yes, they do.
They literally have bear crossing tunnels and like 8-foot fences down the road so the bears can go under the road instead of across the road. But I had no idea, and someone came and told me they hit a bear with their Camaro, and I was like, I really thought that they were on something. I'm like, bears in Florida? Where were you? And then I
I,
realized I was the one that was lost.
I bet there wasn't much left of that Camaro either.
Yeah. They're the black bears. They're not. They definitely. It'd be like hitting a cow almost
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine. There's so many critters down there.
Yeah, not to mention the
What's your favorite
mosquitoes.
Florida animal?
Oh, let's see. Well, I guess if I have to pick one, it would be the fishing down there. I love the fish. You know, the largemouth bass is pretty, and I know that's odd for an animal, but I love fishing. So, you know, and the best fishing is in Florida. So I would have to say it's going to be a fish. Plus, they're good eating. I love to eat fish, so I love seafood. I'm not much on
So
reptiles.
you like bass fishing. Have you gone mud fishing? Have you gone mud fishing?
Is that where you stick your hand in the mud?
Have you gone fishing for mud?
Oh no, I haven't.
And definitely not this fish. So this fish, it looks like a catfish, except for it also looks like a really terrifying Pac-Man. It has fangs, the
Oh God.
mudfish do. So they fight like a bass, but they kind of look like a catfish with just some gnarly, like Wolverine fangs.
Oh
But they're
wow.
really fun to fish for because they have the weight of a catfish with the fight of a bass. And they're usually in gator infested waters. So you got to watch your
Yeah.
fishing. It gives an extra thrill to the game you're fishing.
Right. Yeah, and you know, I've lived up here in Tennessee for so long, and there's a lot of fishing up here, but I never go up here. I think I'm so used to the water in Florida that I prefer going down there, and so I try to go sometimes when I go down to see my family. You know, uh, but uh, but they do a lot of fishing here in Tennessee, but I just mainly catfishing. But but the water up here is different than Florida water. So,
Right. Oh no, it definitely is. And it gets even worse the further north you get. It starts to look like chocolate milk instead of water.
right, right.
I grew up on the Mississippi River, so it definitely gets clearer as you go further south. I was really shocked when I came to Texas because like South Texas has that like emerald green water. It's so
Right,
beautiful.
right. That is gorgeous. There's a lot of water in the south.
So the song we heard when you first came in, Taking a Walk, what's the story behind that song?
Well, that's one of the songs that I actually didn't write on the record. A friend of mine by the name of Hank Adam Rockland wrote it specifically for me, and it was I was going through a really bad divorce, and this was, I guess, in around 2012, 2013. Um, he had written a song for me, and it, it doesn't speak in specifics to me, but it's in general, it's about the situation. And he gave it to me on a little cassette tape. I mean, this is back when people were still using cassette tapes, you know, and I remember liking the song because he played it on the guitar for me. And I said, yeah, I'll probably learn that and record it one day. But I was just going through a lot of time, and I remember throwing it in a bucket of tapes that I had, you know, that I always kept around, and didn't think much about it until we started doing this album for Heart of Texas Records, and I was kind of looking for some Texas shuffle type song, and I remembered that song from all those years ago, and I'm like, I wonder if I still have that tape. So I'm a horrible pack rat. I keep everything, and probably need to throw away half the stuff I have, but I knew that was probably somewhere, and so I got to digging around in this bucket of tapes, and toward the very bottom, there it was, and I pulled it out. And, I had to find something to play it on because, I mean, who has a cassette deck anymore? I mean, people don't have those, but I found an old Walkman that I was able to put batteries in and was able to get enough sound out of it that I relearned the song, and then I recorded it on my phone so my producer could have something to work with, and so that's how it came about. So I mean, that song is probably 15 years old or more, and it finally has seen the light of day. So if you got a good song, uh, you know, you may not be able to record it now, or that's my encouragement for songwriters. And just because you've had one sitting on the shelf for a while doesn't mean it doesn't have value. You still need to keep pitching your songs or whatever. Because I mean, this guy pitched that to me, 12, 13 years ago, and I'm just now getting around to recording it. So sometimes it works out that way.
Right. And we do have a lot of songwriters that have songs that have charted, even that are looking for other artists to take them to the next level. So that's awesome that you threw that tidbit out, just because you sang it. And I mean, that's a lot of people are getting their traction off of cover songs. And just because it wasn't a #1 hit that you're covering doesn't mean it won't be for you.
Right.
Bermuda Shorts. Let's talk about that.
This is a funny little tongue-in-cheek thing that I wrote many, many years ago. And, growing up in Florida, I always loved, what I like about country music is there's this blend, especially in the 80s and 90s, where, you have some stuff that sounds a little more rock. You've got, when the Bellamy Brothers came along in the 80s, you had this island type sound mixed in with it. And I was a huge fan of a guy named Eddie Raven. Eddie had a string of hits in the 80s and 90s. His biggest song, I guess everybody would remember, was a song called I Got Mexico. It's a very strong island type sound. And so I wrote this song with him in mind, and Jimmy Buffett, of course, in there. And so I put both of their names in the song. And I happened to, over the years, become friends with Eddie Raven. And so I asked him several years ago, I said, would you mind coming in the studio and doing a little cameo on the end of this song, since it's kind of about you and Buffett, And so he agreed, and we recorded a little studio outside of Nashville. And so it was awesome to have one of my all-time heroes record with me. Some guy that I've, in the 80s, you couldn't turn the radio on without hearing, Eddie Raven's song at least 3 or 4 times a day. And so growing up in the 80s, listening to him, guys like him and Buffett and the Bellamys and people like that, and then getting to know him and work with him and, even record with him, just, I'd never thought in a million years that would happen. So this is one of my all-time favorite songs because he's on it, and it's kind of got that island calypso feel to it.
Heck yeah, well, we're going to give it a little sneak peek. You guys are going to have to catch the song to catch the end, to catch the artist that he's talking about. But we're going to give you a preview. Right here's Bermuda Shorts.
Every thought, and every fight I fought was just to try to stay in the game. Emotions run the gamut in this game you play, but the score always comes out the same. You run to him and then you run back to me. Now you're telling me you want me to leave, but you ask for a number as I'm walking out, where you can reach me if you feel the need. You can eat my Bermuda shorts or any other saying of that sort, 'cause I'll be down there with my cohorts on the sand by the sea. Eddie Raven's got Mexico, and Margaritaville is where Buffett goes. This little triangle's my place, you know, to lose her memory.
Oh, it definitely has a vibe to it. Definitely has a vibe, and that was funny.
It does.
It was
Well, and
absolutely
you know,
great.
the line there,
We have Miss Jenny tuning in the comments.
oh, hey, Jenny.
Uh-oh,
Yeah,
did you freeze?
I don't, I was going to say the line.
Yeah, she said it was one of the first songs she heard of yours. Y'all can tell I am dehydrated. We had events after events after events this week. That was a really groovy tune, and you threw some comedy in there, which makes it even better, because music and laughter are the two best medicines there are, and you just did them both in one shot.
Right, and you know, Bart Simpson.
I had to get some water.
Bart Simpson always said, "Eat my shorts," you know, and so that's where I kind of got that. You know, well, what if Bart was wearing Bermuda shorts? You know, so I would say, "You can eat my Bermuda."
He always thinks the future too.
He does. You're right.
I'm like, we started talking about Bart Simpson, and all my lighting started flickering, and the computer and everything dimmed. I don't know what just happened, or if it's supposed to storm tonight or something. Like, that was trippy. Did you see it? It looked like a strobe storm going on over here.
I just thought you had a strobe light.
Fun tune. So, all right, good thing I'm not epileptic. Holy cow. What does it mean to be a Heart of Texas artist?
Well, Heart of Texas Records was a label started by a guy by the name of Tracy Pitcock. He started Heart of Texas Country Music Association, and they've got a museum. They've got a great museum down there of country music with all kinds of memorabilia and country music stars, outfits, and guitars and things. He is just really trying to preserve the more traditional sound of country music, and he's got a lot of the older Texas-based artists, guys like the legendary Daryl McCall and Tony Booth. Johnny Bush was on his label, and so Justin Trevino, which is a great artist down there. He's involved in it too. He's on their label, so they've got a pretty good roster going now. A few years ago, Doug Stone, if you remember him from the '90s, did an album for him. So I'm proud to be associated with him. This is my first record out with those folks, and we hope it'll be it will continue. Hopefully, have many more years of success with them. I appreciate what Tracy does, trying to keep music alive. They do a big festival down there in March every year, and they have 2 or 3 big name artists. This year they had Bo Bandy and Gene Watson there, and they pack it out every night here in Brady, which is right in the middle of the state. It's literally the heart of Texas. So, and then they've got another honky tonk festival coming up in August. Uh, I don't know the exact date on that. Where they have other dance hall bands come in, and they usually have a big artist come in on that. So it's a lot of fun, and they do a lot of things. They go on cruises. It just and they even come to Nashville. They bring busloads of folks up to Nashville, and we put on a show up here for them with about 20 or 30 artists. So it's always a lot of fun to have them come into town and to work with those guys. They're great people.
Heck yeah, I think Doug Stone is the one artist that Ninja was saying opened or headlined for one of our finales for the Texas State Songwriters Championship long before I took it over. But I'm pretty sure that's the name that he said. On the list of songs here, I want to know, like, who do you think, I mean, we've heard a couple of different songwriters you've mentioned, but who do you think has influenced your style?
Well, I would say there were several songwriters that I hung around when I came to town. There was a guy named Dallas Frazier who has written really the country music songbook. I mean, if you go back in the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, he had so many hits that he wrote for people. He wrote Elvira for the Oak Ridge Boys. He wrote 14 Karat Mine for Gene Watson. And in the late 50s, when he was just a kid, he wrote the rock and roll hit Alley Oop. If you remember that, I know people would. And so he's just a great guy. I really learned a lot from him. Eddie Raven, also, I just mentioned him. He was a great songwriter. He wrote hits for other people plus himself. And probably vocally, I'm probably influenced by him more. There was a guy that really taught me into moving to Nashville. Was a gentleman by the name of Hank Locklin. Hank goes way back. I mean, we're talking about the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And he had his big, huge song was a song called "Please Help Me, I'm Falling," and it stayed like number one on the charts for like 14 weeks back in 1960. It was a song of the year then. And when I was about, I guess, 11 or 12 years old, my dad used to work at the Kennedy Space Center. He worked at the Space Shuttle Club, and so he worked with a guy who was the son-in-law of Hank Locklin, and so we met, at their house in Florida over that. And I don't know, he was on the Grand Ole Opry, and I was just fascinated with this guy and learned a lot from him too. And then after I got to town, there's another old-time Opry guy by the name of Jack Green who really stuck his neck out for me and got me on my first national radio broadcast, which was the Ernest Tubb Midnite Jamboree here in Nashville on WSM Radio. And so I would say, I mean, I've had a lot of influences, but blended together, those guys kind of sort of made me who I am today. And I'm sure I'm leaving others out, but I've been blessed to have met and worked with so many great people that are just my absolute heroes.
It truly is amazing to think of, like, it's so many times I have heard people say, oh, I've worked with Willie, or I've worked with this person. And the ones that have made it to the top have literally made it there because they just loved on everybody on the way. Like literally, They network and they collaborate and they just enjoy each other, and that's how they get where they're going. That's so many people just don't get that, and they want to stay in their own lane and just grind. But as Uncle Orino always says, and you'll always see us hashtagging, together we go further.
Right. That's absolutely true.
So speaking of working with people on songs, you have some duets out. Who have you worked with as far as collaborations that way?
Well, on this album, we've got the one that you just played with Eddie Raven on the end of it. I worked with several of the Heart of Texas folks. There's a guy that's a legendary name all over Texas by the name of Daryl McCall. He and I did a song that he wrote years ago called "It's the Water." Fun little tune. There's another guy that he and I have a little bit of common. I was born in Texas and raised in Florida, and he was born and raised in Florida but ended up in Texas. And that's a guy by the name of Tony Booth. Tony had great success in the mid '70s. Had a string of hits, and so he's kind of still based out of Houston there. And so he and I did a duet on a record, on this record, and man, there's just so many on there. Jeannie C. Riley came out of retirement. Miss Harper Valley PTA herself, and sang on a song that she recorded. And I just love her for that. She doesn't really sing anymore, but she did it for me. She came out of retirement for me, and we had fun doing that little song. So I just love her to pieces. You talk about somebody that loves on you. Jeannie C., if you've ever met her once, she'll love you for the rest of her life. She's just like that with everybody. And, she's just such a sweetheart of a lady. There's also another lady on there that I want to mention. I call her my Tennessee mama because she really did a lot for me over the years. A lady by the name of Margie Singleton. Margie should have been a much bigger star than she was. And she still can sing, and she's 89 years young. She can still sing great. And but she did have a few hit records back in the 50s and 60s, and she was the first female to record a full album with George Jones. This is before Tammy Wynette and all of that. But they've got a duet album, and she had some solo hits too. But she's really like a second mom to me, and kind of took me under her wing. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention her. We've got a duet on this record as well. So there's just so many people that I've been blessed to know. I have to pinch myself and thank God every day that I've been able to get to know these great people and call them friends and be able to work with them.
Absolutely amazing. So is there anyone on your radar that you want to work with that you haven't been able to get attached, get that connection made yet?
Yeah, I tell you, I am a huge Mark Chestnut fan. I've always wanted to work with Mark Chestnut. I just love his songs. I grew up with him, and I just love his style. And I've never even met him, believe it or not. And people tell me all the time, "Well, you've met just about it. You know everything."
Let's see to make that happen. Everybody tag Mark Chestnut in the comments and tell him that Rucker wants to work with him.
Hey,
see if we can get his attention for you.
That works. Thank you.
Yes, everybody. It's going to take all of you, every single one of you, to tag Mark Chestnut and tell him Joe Rucker needs a friend phone call. Need to work out a song or two.
That would be awesome.
Where are we going next? We have Us, Happy Hour Blues, or For Just a Little While Tonight.
Are you asking me to pick?
Uh-oh. I don't think I heard your response.
Oh, I was saying you wanting me to pick. If I'm picking, I would say let's play Us.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
I want you to pick.
let's play Us. This is a song that Diane McCall and I recorded. She wrote it with Justin Trevino, and she put it on her album in 2012. And it was not a duet; it was just her singing. And I told her when I was putting this project together, I was like, Diane, I think this would be a great duet because, you have the guy sing one line to the girl and the girl sing another line to the guy, and they're kind of telling each other, hey, it's your fault, kind of thing, as we often do as humans. We want to point the finger to the other person. So it came out great. She thought it was a great idea to do it that way. And everybody loves the song. I've heard several people say it's their favorite song off this album. So let's play Us.
Here we go. Joe Rucker.
I'm taking my time, driving slow. I needed this time to be alone, thinking what's right, wondering what's wrong with us.
You wanted your way and won't see mine. Something's been missing for a long, long time. I'm wondering what's happened, what's changed your mind about us. Why can't it be the way it used to be?
Me loving you and you loving me.
Is this really all that's left?
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
We'll find out how it feels now to be free.
You can be you.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I have this bad issue of putting my mute on when the song is on and then not taking it off. I said I love the songs where like the story is kind of going back and forth like that. You're right. It was really set up well, and it sounds like they're like, exactly how you said it. Exactly how you said it, going back and forth. Like it could be you, but it could be me.
Right. That was a lot of fun.
Where is your favorite place to perform?
That was a lot of fun. Well, I would say, and of course, I'm on Heart of Texas Records, but honestly, anywhere in Texas is great. I've performed in the Houston area, Brady area, Llano, played a little thing in Austin. I think the vibe down in Texas for the kind of music that I do is just totally awesome. People down there are so welcoming, and I really can kind of consider it my music home. Of course, I've played all over the country. I've even played in your old home state of Illinois, a couple of times. So, and I've been all over the South and South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, all the way up to Pennsylvania, and Michigan in my career. But I think Texas has just got my heart. My heart's kind of in Texas. you know, and I love the people down there, and I love working down
Well, Texas is definitely different than anywhere I've been, and I've traveled. I've held jobs in 13 states, like contract work in 13 states, and there's not really anything like Texas. There's really not. And like I said, you know, I've been to half of the country. There's a lot of things that like similarities, but not all in the same spot.
Right, right. And Texas is,
Like the
you
Southern
know,
hospitality.
yeah, and Texas, you know, people say it all the time, but it really is like a whole other country. I mean, you know, they've got their own thing, and it's like the best of America plus even better. If you know, it's the it's just so great. Even the food's better down there. I love the food in Texas. You know.
Right. Well, and I feel like 25 years ago, you know, before all of the New York felons moved to Florida, that Florida was similar.
Right, right.
It
Well,
was nice back when the orange groves still existed.
right. You know, and that's so true because you and I, we lived in the same area in Florida, and man, that whole area was nothing but orange groves back in the day. But now it's just housing developments and concrete.
The
You know,
most
everywhere.
beautiful smell. The most
Yeah.
beautiful smell. And now instead of getting welcomed into town with the smell of orange blossoms, you get welcomed into town with the smell of the dump at the edge of it.
Right, right,
I'm like,
right.
well, I can't live here anymore. I did. I left when I was like, I really can't, man. Like I watched all of those, like it was literally, so jasmine and gardenia, I think are the only two smells that are anywhere close to the smell of orange blossom. And once the smell
Yes.
of orange blossom was gone, I'm like, what am I even staying here for? Like,
Right, right.
I'm watching the interstate swallow wads of cars at the same time. I'm like, could you just I didn't want to be the next person driving 80 miles an hour down the highway and end up in like where we think hell is so random to me that the earth could just swallow 8 or 10 cars when it felt like it.
Yeah, the sinkholes are
Where's your
bad.
house? I don't know. It's between that and the gators, because you know right there, Lake Jessup, that's gator. That's
Oh yeah.
literally the lake that when they get calls for animal control because they have gator problems, that's the lake they dump the gators in.
Well,
Right there by next
know
to where
that,
you were.
you know this. You know, if you've got a pool outside, you know, even if you've got it screened in, you better really check around your pool and make sure that there's no gators, because they'll get in and go in the pool, or they'll lay by the pool. You know, you've got to really be vigilant about that, especially if you have small kids, because they'll just go out there and, you know, it's dangerous. There's so many of them.
And snack for sure. There was a lot of little dogs always on the news being eaten off of Lake Jessup. I'm like, why would you own a little dog and live on a lake full of alligators? Like, it's not the alligators' fault at that point.
That's right.
Oh, there were crazy stories when the alligator crossed the road. Like, there were so many. You just see them like a deer, you know, just laying on the side of the road. That I've never hit one. I would never want to hit one. I can't imagine it's a fun experience.
No, that'd be pretty crunchy.
I have went gator fishing though, unofficially. That may or may not happen. Talk about a fishing experience.
Have you had gator tail? Have you eaten it?
So I have. My kids loved RJ Gators. I had to take them there every year for their birthday because they wanted that coffee filter of Cool Whip in their face and gator tail.
Yeah, I like it
Why
too.
they
but
wanted to be smashed in the face with Cool Whip every year, I don't know, but that was the thing they enjoyed. It does. I don't really think that there's a big deal about it. It just literally tastes like a chicken nugget, except for better than a chicken nugget.
Unless you don't cook it right,
It's
then
a little
it tastes
bit
like rubber.
Oh man. Yeah. And so I'm so spoiled. Like I miss Florida because I don't eat seafood and a lot of stuff like that, especially because I lived in Florida for 12 years. Who's going to eat seafood from the Midwest or any state that it had to be
Right.
transported to after eating it fresh? So one of my favorite things is calamari, but I cannot for the life of me find somewhere that cooks good calamari because it all has to be frozen before you get it. Like I've been disappointed and disappointed and disappointed with that. I don't typically order calamari anymore because it just tastes like rubber. They had to freeze it. It's no good anymore. There is a place back home in Illinois, though, that they overnight ship it. So it's not ever frozen. And that stuff, I've never had calamari, even in Florida like that. It's like thick steak strips of calamari that are just like melt in your, like a filet mignon melt in your mouth. It's wild. That's probably one of the only things I miss about Illinois.
I love calamari.
And I noticed you've been there because you called it Illinois and not Illinois.
Yeah, I've actually got an uncle and a cousin that lives there outside of Springfield. So they
It's
educated.
crazy when you travel and you mention that you're from Illinois. I think only people in Illinois know that there are more cities than just Chicago. Like you say you're from, they're like, oh, you're from Chicago? And I'm like, yeah, there are other cities too, you know? Like, really? So Texas, Florida, and you said you pretty much travel all over. So if anybody wants to book you anywhere in the country, you're game for it.
Oh yeah, you can just go to my website, joeruckermusic.com, and it's got a little contact thing on there, or you can find me on Facebook. And yeah, we'll come out. Be glad to.
Do you do solo, full band? What are your options you got going on?
All of the above. I've gone places with just me and the guitar, if that's what they want. A lot of songwriter venues, that's the kind of thing that they'll do, and we'll do like a songwriter show. Sometimes I'll take maybe one or two pieces with me. If they want a full band, we'll do that too. A lot of these little theaters and opry houses will have like staff bands, and they'll hire me to come down, and their band will play with me. And the price fluctuates depending on what they want, but and also how far it would be. But you can just go to my website, joeruckermusic.com, and there's a little contact information there to get to me with, and just send us an email, and we'll figure out where it is and how far it is and how much we would need to go there and what you're looking for, and kind of tailor make the show for that. So.
Absolutely. And he has merch and all that good stuff too on your site, right? And we have it rolling down here on the bottom, joeruckermusic.com. Jenny says you have an amazing voice.
Well, I appreciate Jenny. She's known me for a long time and has always been in my corner, so I appreciate her.
I love her. She's been plugging in and supporting the station for quite a while now, probably almost as long as I've been doing this, honestly. She's an amazing soul. I know we have the Texas Country Music Industry Awards show coming up June 12th at Rhinestone Saloon. You want to get your tickets for that if you're industry. Definitely a good networking opportunity. Lots of radio connections will be there. Flash, flash. We have a couple more songs in here. If I can get my screen to work. Happy Hour Blues. That sounds like an oxymoron a little bit.
Oh, it very much is. Yeah, it's not a very happy song to have the word happy in it. There's very good friend of mine who passed away a few years ago that wrote this song and is singing with me on it by the name of Jim Glazer. Jim had two careers. The Glazer brothers, he and his brother Tom Paul and Chuck had a group. They were the first CMA Group of the Year back in the late 60s, early 70s, and had a string of hits as a solo, as a group. And then they kind of parted ways. Jim had a solo career and ended up having several top tens and a big #1 song in '84. And I think he was nominated for the Academy of Country Music. He won the Male Vocalist of the Year for Academy of Country Music in 1984. And so he was another hero of mine that I grew up listening to. And he had this, very cheery song called Happy Hour Blues. It's not cheery at all, but it's a great country song. I mean, you've got to have a sad, miserable, tear-jerking song if it's going to be country, right? I mean, at least one of those on the album, you've got to have it, And so that's what this song is. Jim is such a great singer and such a great vocalist. And of course, like I said, we lost him a few years ago with a heart attack. But I was so grateful that we were able to go in the studio and do this. And it's one of those songs that, if it never sells one copy, which it already has sold several, but I don't care. I wouldn't take $1 million for this because I sang it with my friend. He wrote the song, and it's just a great country song.
Heck yeah. Well, we're going to give it a spin. Happy Hour Blues.
He can't remember when he first admitted the truth. One day he just stopped believing the dreams of his youth. Now he goes down to a bar after work every day. At 2-for-1 prices he drinks till the pain goes away.
She may be young, thinking she'd have a life of her own.
I think you're muted again.
Words, and thank you for that. I said that song, definitely a lot of people can relate to. Alcohol is a big thing in our country, and I've been sober for almost 2 years, except for I had a couple of drinks at the awards show and was reminded the next day as to why I don't need to ever do that again.
I think there's so many of us that have been through that, and and if we haven't been through it, we know somebody that has, and so it is a relatable song, and we've all gone through stages in life where we lean on things a little too much that we shouldn't, and so and it's just the expression of that, and how sometimes talking about it will helps you cope, and writing about it and singing about it helps you cope. And so I think it's a good song just for that. I mean, music is great therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah, they actually say that you will never get over anything that you are not ready to talk about. You have to be able to trust someone to be able to talk about it, and that's a big deal in our society because everybody wants to talk about people instead of to people, and it makes it hard for people to reach out. And 90% 90% of things cured with love, not medication, love, understanding, and acknowledgement. That is the recipe for healing. And it's hard to find because it's hard to find somebody that's you can confide in that isn't going to use it against you later, unfortunately. Joe's new duet CD is awesome. How was it? What was it like working with country music royalty on your new CD?
Oh, I tell you, it's like I have to pinch myself sometimes to really realize, you know, I try not to get too, you know, blasé about it because I mean, when you're into the day to day, you can, but then you really have to stop and think, what I've got to do, what I'm getting to do, um, is not what everybody that's in music gets to do. I mean, I've had opportunities that people just dream for. So I try to always keep that in account that it's not just something that's handed out to everybody. I've just been blessed.
Absolutely. And it's not always what you know, it's who you know. So reach out. The only definite no is the question that was not asked.
Very
It looks
true.
like your dad actually wrote Mama's Rockin' Chair. How was it? What was it like to sing a song that was written by your father?
Well, Dad is probably my first musical influence anyway. We always had music around the house. He was always having people over, play music, and I would fall asleep in the chair, surrounded by guitars in my ear when I was just wee little boy, and Dad was always singing and playing guitar. I mean, I don't remember a day that goes by that we didn't have he and I didn't sit in the living room and pick our guitars together. And so he wrote a lot of songs. Indirectly through him, I learned how to write because I would listen to what he wrote, and as far as the form and the flow and the pattern of the song, uh, you know, I kind of was able to learn just by watching him. And he wrote this song called "Mama's Rocking Chair" in the mid late '80s. And at that time, Willie Nelson had Farm Aid. It was so big, and they were always talking about uh, the plight of the American farmer because they were losing their farms. They were having their farms repossessed and taken away from them, and so he wrote this song to kind of sort of as a tribute to them, and so it it hadn't really no one had ever really done anything with it, and I'm sitting around looking for songs, and of course I knew it by heart because I sang it when I was a kid so much, and our friend Marty Rabin with the group Shenandoah, he I had asked him, I said, do you think you would do me a favor and come in and sing the song with me? He said, sure. Next time I'm in Nashville. And, he came in and put his vocal treatment on it. And man, when Marty Rabin sings, it's just like he's got one of the most unique and most recognizable voices in the country music industry. Whenever you hear a Shenandoah song and you hear his voice, uh, he sang lead on all of those hits. I mean, it's so distinct. You know exactly who it is, and nobody sounds like him. And so it was such an honor to have him sing on this. A lot of people don't know he was he is from Sanford, Florida. Marty Rabin from Shenandoah. He grew up in Sanford, between Sanford and Jacksonville, and so I knew him when I was a little tot. He had a little bluegrass group down there, and I remember overhearing him tell somebody he was going to move to Nashville. make it big, and he sure did. Shenandoah in the '90s just had hit after hit after hit after hit. So, um, I'm so honored that he did this song with me, and that my dad wrote it, and we got to put it on this record. It's just such a blessing to me.
That's an absolutely beautiful story, and that's a very well-loved artist for sure that you got to work with on that song. We have one more song left on our list of songs we're going to cover for just a little while tonight.
All right. Well, this song was written by the great Jim Reeves and Hank Lachlan, my friend that I was mentioning to you earlier. Um, we had a series of tragedies in the 1960s with big name country music artists. Of course, we lost Patsy Cline in 1963 in a plane crash. Well, Jim Reeves, who was really just as big as Patsy, died the following year in a plane that he was piloting. A lot of plane crashes back then. But my friend Hank Lachlan and Jim Reeves, they did the first USO tour to Germany back in the late 1950s. And they flew over there and played for all the servicemen. And on their way back on the plane, a very long flight, they wrote this song. And so no one had ever recorded it, to my knowledge, and really put it out. And so this is the one song that's an older song. It's never really been released nationally until this album, but I've had it in hand all these years. Uh, Hank Lachlan died in 2009, so I think he did his vocal in 2003. But we remixed it and tried to update it, remaster it, and get the sound together. But it's really a sweet song of my lifelong friend and I sing together. Even though he's been gone now for several years, I love this song and love what it says. I just had to put it on the album.
So before we listen to that song, do you have any advice for anyone that is wanting to go down this road as a songwriter and become a country music star?
Well, I would say keep your determination. There are going to be naysayers everywhere you turn. They will pick you apart from stem to stern. You've got to keep your eye on the prize, keep at it. You can take constructive criticism. You have to be willing to take some constructive criticism, but you'll know in your heart of hearts whether they're full of it or if they're really truly trying to give you great advice. And you have to discern, and you have to just take those people that are just mouthing off, take them with a grain of salt. Keep on moving. I've been in this business now for 25 years, and I still every day run into negativity. You can't outrun negativity. You just got to plow through it and keep going. And like you said before, love everybody. Just love people. When you see another person that's in a similar situation, or maybe where you were 5 or 10 years ago, help them out as you can. Reach out and see if you can help ease their mind on some things. But stick with it. Don't let somebody talk you out of what you know your calling. You might have to work a day job. I've had to work a day job on and off for a long time and play music as much as I can. That doesn't mean you're not going to have a music career. You can do both. The It can be done. But all of that rambling to say, just keep going. Just keep at it.
Great advice. You heard it from Joe Rucker. We're playing a little while tonight. Thank you, Joe, for sharing your story and your time with us. We look forward to any awesome updates in the future.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'd give anything to be with you for just a little while tonight. For now, I find I must serve